Video conference number 2. Unconsciousness of life. What is beyond my conscious life? A restless question I ask myself. It is a challenge in a culture accustomed to distraction, to only looking outward and to being anesthetized with momentary pleasures. It does not come naturally to shine a spotlight to illuminate what can be reached within us, to realize with our gaze a representation of the spiritual. Today, very few people are willing to engage in any intellectual practice for spiritual development. The common tendency is to identify and concern themselves only with what appears and is offered to them by their 5 senses, mind and intelligence. There is no purpose of life and spiritual progress as a way to identify ourselves with God. The gaze of man today is concentrated on advancing in the science of the knowledge of man himself. Intelligence is used to perceive how to act, but in a purely sensitive way. However, this science will never exhaust what the human being is. Nowadays, there are many people interested in the consciousness, in the inner world of the human being, which is very interesting to become familiar with, and with the things happening to today's man interested in his outer world. It is necessary to find again what has been taught for centuries by the religious creeds, and which are discovering us every day against this fragmented vision of the universe, only external, scientific. To turn to religious creeds that bring to today's man messages of interiority, and that we find them very special on the prestige and authority of the spiritual thought by the gospel of Jesus, centered on love. Love one another as I have loved you. Knowing this, blessed are you if you do it. To encounter God is to find God in our fellow man in need. It is the sense of the gospel of Jesus, the attitude responding to the longing for interiority of our time. To respond to the need felt by humans, and which is also proclaimed by so many other and different religious traditions, and concretized in this spiritual experience, which I call contemplative life, to which we can all reach and access, and that we cannot walk without it. A very similar individual experience which binds us all deeply. Although the religious creeds are different, they open us to our own knowledge and lead us to discover love wherever we are, because in the depths of the human being there is the tendency to be a seeker of truth and love. Today, the tragedy of man and humanity comes from his restless heart, which fills itself with the most despicable baseness, when he suffers from his emptiness of interiority and lack of love. The human heart has such a great spiritual emptiness that if it's not filled with God, it will always be a tormented heart seeking to fill itself with any garbage and feel that come its way, to evade it with drugs, or to silence and ignore it by means of escape and evasion of life or suicide, to escape from that which they call existential emptiness. Augustine of Hippo wrote, "Because you have made us and drawn us to yourself, and our heart is restless until it rests in you." If in any place or space the concrete presence of God can be located, it is in the loving state of the human heart, in the heart that loves its fellow man, in the heart of a child. Pope Francis, head of the Catholic Church, writes that man today is a slave of the multiple and overwhelming offer of consumption. He suffers an individualistic sadness that springs from a comfortable and greedy heart, leading him to suffer infinite emptiness of love. Behind all this, there is the darkness in life, a grey color covering the modern life of today's man. Nobody has proclaimed to him the gospel of Jesus. The today's man is drowning in his own darkness. The road to the light is long and winding. Spirituality and the inner world are very dark for the today's man. He needs, and God asks him, an experience of interiority, recollection and silence, prayer to God, experiences of stillness in his tired life. The today's man must become a spiritual seeker of truth, A person who takes seriously the path to interiority must make the choice to seek a dignified and fulfilled life, to enjoy the joy and light that come from love, his heart throbbing with the enthusiasm to do good to his fellow men in need, to free himself from the sadness that springs from a comfortable and greedy heart. Love for his fellow men in need offers light for those who want to take this path of enthusiastic dedication, to discover and enjoy his inner world, to discover what the gospel of Jesus is. If I then, your Lord and Master, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. In the gospel of Jesus you will find life, truth, beauty and emotion to live. Make a personal and mystical reading of the gospel of Jesus, full of prayer and recollection, and there you will find yourself. You will discover what is happening to you, where you are walking. You will find light in your darkness. You will discover the inner path of love. You will find yourself there. In the gospel of Jesus, you will find something that thousands of people are waiting to find, and no one gives them the answer to this hope. You will arrive one day to open yourself to the paradigm of interiority, of silence, an encounter with the spiritual world that you will want to communicate and be welcomed by multitudes. There, you will free yourself from the unhealthy search for superficial pleasures that lead you to an isolated and empty conscience, a resentful and lifeless man who lives in a cosmos where everyone wants to be more and live better, to have recognition. There you will find a complete human fulfillment, because we always live feeling that we want something more, that we need to be truly happy. To heal this wound within us, in the depths of ourselves, a thing we have not been able to reconcile, we feel we must stop, listen and look beyond. The gospel of Jesus points out an essential message of a beyond. We must stop. We are called to be ourselves, and it clarifies what we are really called to. Not to have more goods and power, to appear more, to strive for performance, to produce more. Messages that lead us to a life of stress, which is the enemy of the inner life. Not knowing how to be with ourselves makes us more alive on the outside than on the inside. To be always working, a structural problem we have in our society, neglecting the attitudes proper to spirituality we find in the silent and prayerful listening to the gospel of Jesus.